Hello. This demo today we're going to be working with circles. So fun with circles. Are you tired of circles yet? We've done several of my tutorials have been oriented around just working with circles, but this one's going to be about drawing. So just a reminder, if you haven't watched my mark making video, you have essentially a line and a tone to work with when you're drawing. We're going to start out by getting a circle built. So let's make us a circle, and I'm just dropping it on. There's a number of ways of doing this. This is one way, just getting the motion going. You can also try doing it with just tone. And if you get good at this, it looks pretty cool. So this is a thing to practice as you're learning how to draw, is how to draw things in a linear manner and then in a mass mark toning situation. Once you get some initial linear marks made, you can come in with structural marks. We're going to just build that circle so you don't have to think that you have to draw it perfectly all the way around. And even doing this, it's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It just kind of has to be believable. All right, and you can also combine the two. Do a little mass mark making, add your structural marks directly on top of it. Really getting a good hand at it. Don't get absorbed and too enthralled with being perfect. It's the character, it's these extra marks. You can also do, if I can get it in frame here, you can also do it with concentric ellipses. So this takes some practice, but it also gives you a guide that you can then come in and either work with your mass or your structural marks to create the shape. And ultimately, when you're drawing, you're going to be, especially for watercolor, you're just going to be giving yourself a rough outline of what all the watercolor work is going to be about. Okay. Tone is what you do also to take a circle to create it and make a sphere, make it three-dimensional. That's the only way you can work to create a circle to appear 3D is through tone and value or color once you get to that point. All right, and you have the primary things within the, there we go, sorry. Just trying to get it to read right. You have the basic shade, you have the core of the shadow, you have reflected light, and on the bottom edge of it, and then we also have a shadow right there. We've worked all sorts of various things here to create this illusion of three-dimensional space. Another trick for creating three-dimensional space is, we'll just draw another one back here. Overlapping. We'll just throw it back here, a little tone. All right, so we have now a bigger sphere and a smaller sphere. And I'm working both linear marks and tonal marks here. I'm going to grab a little piece of eraser. And one final thing here is highlight right there. We'll put that highlight right there, come back in and just tone it. Now the direction of your mark is very important too. So now on this, we have the concentric rings is also giving us an indication of how we can do cross contour line as value. We'll just follow the marks that are made, and maybe past the halfway mark, we arc them the other direction within the ellipse. This is another way to help accentuate the form of the sphere. And then you can also just keep working line as value. So the tighter the spacing of the line, the darker it will read. So you can definitely do it that way as well. We'll throw the mark, the direction of the marks for the shadow are going to be horizontal because the plane of the floor is horizontal. Throw another shadow in here. So scale, size, the scale of this is behind the front one, so that's an indication of three-dimensional space. And we'll just keep working, playing around with it, trying to give it character, depth, contrast, form. And we can even come in and add that highlight right there back in. So we are creating three-dimensional spheres. Also, maybe this one's a tight, dark, we got the linear work on it. It's really in focus, and maybe the one in the background is soft and fuzzy. It's an atmospheric perspective right there. Okay. That's ultimately your goal with drawing, is to give yourself some indication of shape and form. And that's important. I think that's one of your key things, is just being able to recognize basic forms and draw that way. If you lay this circle, if this is 90, standing upright, and you lay it down, you're going to have a different shape. So in this case, a circle laid flat is essentially a line. The only depth it has is the thickness of this line that I drew. So, but if you extrude it out, it can become a square, it can become a rectangle, or whatever. This is looking on to that, essentially a cylinder straight on looks like a square. If you start tipping that cylinder towards you, you're going to get ellipses. So ellipses are essentially circles in perspective. And we'll throw the lines in, and then we'll get the other bottom. Now, if there's a problem that students have when learning how to draw cylinders, and it's important to learn how to draw cylinders, especially if you're wanting to draw people. Cylinders are the means of figuring out foreshortening. You want to make sure, and this is where students often go wrong, is these arcs all have to be symmetrical. So this arc is the exact opposite of this arc. And this arc here is the same as the bottom arc. We just don't see the top arc because this is a solid cylinder. And we'll just come in, and if you notice, I'm doing vertical strokes to add the modeling, the shading around that form, or I can come in and add some of that cross contour shape and form. That's fun. What students will tend to do, sometimes they'll make maybe the top arc too much of an arc and the bottom arc too little of an arc. So that's bad. Don't do that. Try to get them even and consistent that way. That is essentially a real quick primer on shapes of the circle. The joys and the amazing qualities of a circle, the things you can do with it, along with some mark making. And the cool thing about pencil, I'm not even talking ink yet. The cool thing about a pencil is you can make a straight mark, just a simple line with character. Maybe it's thick at this end, trails off at the back end, or you can make a tonal mark with the whole range and create value. And the harder you press, the darker it gets. Well, that's essentially a quick tutorial working with circles, transforming them into spheres and cylinders. I hope you liked this video. Give me a like and a subscribe. I'd appreciate it.